We're going to go a little south and east from Slovakia down into the Arabic countries, whence comes this tale, which is thematically linked to the previous story. The first set is entirely about woodcutters. Here we meet another woodcutter, not a werewolf, unlike you. And yeah, don't be careful. Always take someone with you when you go into the pub to get a drink. He's going along. This woodcutter, he had 10 children. I don't know what it is. If anybody's having fertility trouble, send your man out with an axe. It will sort it out pretty quickly, as far as I can tell. 10 children, a wife, and a cow. As a result, partly as a result of which, he was very poor. He was also very poor because he was a bit lazy, and what's the other thing? Oh yeah, he was thick. Yeah, not gifted with brains. But every day he would go out up onto the hill, and there he would gather the fallen wood amongst the trees, bring it down, take it to market, sell it, buy a loaf of bread, maybe an onion or an olive for flavouring, and bring this back to his family. The kids were quite thin. Now, one day he discovered that the wood was, well, largely run out on that hill, so he went to another hill further away, and there he spent the long day gathering wood, and came down with a great load upon his back. And as he approached the road, he saw there a woman jingling with gold bangles, rustling with fine silks and ruffles. And she called to him, saying, "Brother, dear brother, so good to see you. I wait and I wait, but you never come to visit me. Why is that?" He said, "It's because I don't have a sister." "You deny me to my face, how could you? I suppose not every heart is soft. Oh, but at least do me the honour of telling me, speak with me, tell me what you're doing here." "Well, I've been gathering wood and now I'm going home." "Oh, you have to work so hard, poor brother. You should share in your sister's good fortune, for I am rich, as you can see. Come, stay at my house, bring your family. I have rich and fine things enough for any mood or occasion." And he said, but we're not related." "Oh, do not remember when we were children. Come with me." And she took him by the hand and led him to her house. And what a house it was! Oh, wow! It was huge and filled with rich things and gold candlesticks and all sorts. It had an upper story, a room upstairs on the outside, and a great arbour providing shade to the front of the house, a courtyard, and inside, oh, the sacks and sacks of wheat and lentils and dried broad beans, and rows of jars filled with olive oil and butter fat. And she cooked him a meal. And for this meal, she killed a suckling lamb. Such extravagance. And he hadn't tasted meat for years. And the smell, ravished him, and he fell upon it, and ate, and it was so delicious. He thought, "Why haven't I come to visit my wealthy sister before this?" And when he had finished, he ran all the way home. So fast, it's a wonder he didn't do himself a mischief. And he got home and he told his wife, and she said, "If I had a sister-in-law, I would have thought I would know about it by now. And if she is not your sister, then what good purpose does she have in inviting us to come and stay with her?" But reason and logic were of no avail, and so the poor wife had no choice but in the morning to gather her 10 children by the hand and the scrawny cow on a rope, and away they went to the wealthy sister's house. And when they got there, A meal was laid before them like they had never seen in their lives, and they fell to with great gusto, and ate and ate and ate and ate and ate, and when they had cleared the table, another table full of food was laid before them, and when they had eaten all that and eaten so much they couldn't fit in another morsel, they had supper. Then they went to a chamber on the ground floor that had been set aside for them, and settled down in their beds. Full for the first time in years. The woodcutter said, away with all bothersome toil, why did I ever work so hard? I should have come and stayed with my wealthy sister. A month passed, and the children, whose faces had been as thin as knife blades, filled out quite nicely. And then the sister came creeping down the stairs at night. And as she came, she muttered to herself, all my fat and my flour eaten and gone, but now they are plump, I need not wait long. Yes, she wasn't related to him at all. I don't know if you'd spotted that. She was, in fact, a she-demon, a ghoul, which is the feminine form of ghoul. You see, a ghoul, and she meant to feast on their tender flesh. But as she approached the door, the cow stood in her way and said, my eyes will burn you like a flame, my tail will whip you until you are lame, my horns can gore and tear and maim. And so the ghoul had to go back up the stairs. The next night she came again and once more was rebuffed by the cow. On the third night, as she came down the stairs, the cow, manoeuvring itself into position, clipped the door with its hoof. The door rang, and inside the mother awoke, and so she heard when the wealthy sister said, all my fat and my flour eaten and gone, but now they are plump, I need not wait long. And she heard as the cow answered, my eyes can burn you like a flame, my tail can whip you until you are lame, my horns can gore and tear and maim. And she shook her husband and said, wake up, you've got to hear this. But he had eaten so much, he was in a deep slumber and would not wake. She shook him harder, wake up! All he did was fart. Well, in the morning, she told him what she had heard. And he said, it's just a dream, a phantasm of the night. Don't worry about it, forget it, it's just nonsense. Why would you want to kick away this comfort? Nevertheless, later that day, the wealthy sister came and said, dear brother, I have a curious craving for beef. You wouldn't begrudge me that scrawny cow of yours, would you? Well, what could he say? She had been so generous to him, and so he killed his cow. It's sadder than that. And then his wife cooked it, put the tastiest bits on a plate, gave them to one of the daughters, said, carry that up for your aunt. And she carried it up the stairs, opened the chamber to the upper room. But inside, she did not see her aunt. She saw the horrible demon, eyes glowing like coals, wild hair streaming out, horrible hairy skin, and hanging from the rafters, human bodies, partly eaten. Cheap clothes. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to play Spot the Ghoul. She closed the door very carefully and crept back down the stairs. at the bottom, she slipped and dropped the food, and her mother came out and said, "What's up?" She said, "The clubbing eyes, bodies." She said, "Come and tell your father." And they went to the woodcutter and she told him, and he said, "Just childish imagination, why are you making up these foolish things? Ah, this life of luxury is so good. Why do you keep wanting to pass away this wonderfulness?" That night, the ghoul crept down the stairs, and with no cow to stop her, she opened the door to the chamber where the family slept, and she went along the row of children, feeling each of them in turn, and muttering, "All my fat and my flour, eaten and gone, but now they are plump. I need not wait long." But the mother was not asleep. She sat up and said, "Sister-in-law, what are you doing?" She said, "I'm just covering up my nephews and nieces. I don't want them to get cold now, do I?" And she had to go away. In the morning, the mother cooked a ground lentil soup, and she watched without complaining as her children splashed it all over themselves and each other. And then, taking a couple of them for evidence, she went to the wealthy sister and said, "I need to wash the children's clothes and give them a bath as well. So can I borrow your copper and take it down to the wadi?" "Of course, of course." And so, taking the copper and the 10 children, she went down to the wadi. And there she built a great fire and piled green wood upon it to make it smoke. And she hung bits of cloth on nearby bushes where the wind would catch them and make them wave about. And then, saying a prayer to Allah for protection, she lifted the hem of her long skirts, took it in her teeth, took her children by the hands, and she ran all the way home to her house under the hill. Now, the ghoul occasionally looked out through the door, down to the wadi, saw the smoke and bits of cloth waving about, and thought, "Yeah, she's still doing her washing." But as darkness drew in, she wondered why they had not returned, and so she went down to the wadi to see, and there she saw the fire, the copper lying unused in the sand, and the bits of cloth tied to the bushes. And she knew she had been tricked, and she let out a great wail that echoed around the hills. "Why did I fatten and fatten them when by now I could have eaten them?" And the woodcutter, lying in the great arbour in the shade, heard this and knew that his wife had been right all along, and now the ghoul was coming for him alone, with her knife sharpened and hot. He ran around quickly trying to find somewhere to hide, and he couldn't, until he saw a rubbish heap in the corner of the courtyard, and he dived in underneath it. And just in time, as the ghoul came raging up the hill and into the courtyard, she smashed into the apartment where they had stayed, turned over the tables, threw over the chairs, broke open the cupboards, and when she could not find him, she stormed out into the courtyard. There was no sign of her prey, so she climbed up on the rubbish heap to get a better vantage point. And as she did so, her weight settled down upon the unfortunate woodcutter beneath, and he belched and kicked a can. And she said, "Is that you moaning, oh my hat? Away with you!" And hair streamed wild in the wind. And she moved to a position, and a weight again pressed down on the woodcutter, and his stomach betrayed him. And she said, "Is that you moaning, my robe?" And she tore off her robe and threw it down. And there she stood, her hairy skin for all to see, in a horrible demon form for all to run from. And she stood on tiptoes to see a little further, and once more her weight pressed upon the woodcutter beneath, and this time when he emitted a sound, she said, "There is something in my rubbish heap making noises." And she threw half of it one way and half the other. She dragged out the woodcutter and said, "Which bit shall I eat first?" "Start with my ears, so deaf to my wife's fears." She chewed off his ears. A nice little starter. Next my arms that dragged her into harm. Next my legs that would not walk where she begged. And so on, and so on, until there was nothing left to ask or to give answer. But so it is for the lazy man, for he digs with his own hands the hole that he falls into.